Fan violence is spreading like wildfire, and it's a vice that desperately needs to be curbed. We dive into this episode looking at how it affects teams and also players going into their next games. My name is Ayomide Shotubo, and this is the Nutmeg on Guardian TV. It's a sad scene, really, all right, when we see fans and their outrage pouring out like wildfire, really pouring out against teams and against players that they supposedly came to support. And this episode is dedicated solely to talking about this phenomenon, not a wanted one anyway. But then Tochukwu joins me in this, and Tochukwu, it's been a while, really, but how have you been?
Thank you. I've been good. It's good to see you again.
Right. We've already seen fan violence in the African Cup of Nations. Sadly, Chris Hughton, although that's not the cause of the loss of his job, but he's lost his job. But after the first game against Cape Verde, they lost, and then a fan got right, however way he got into the dressing room. It's funny, but he got into the dressing room, and then there was an altercation between the fan and then Chris Hughton. It's not an African thing. That's something we need to sound out. But really, I begin to imagine how the players, or in this case, coaches, how do they react in the next games? What sort of pressure is on their shoulders after these sort of things happen?
Well, for one, I would say the first thing on my mind is violence is not necessarily the way, because you can't expect your players to give you 100% in a very, very toxic environment. So that is one aspect first. Then, secondly, I think in most cases it will act like a catalyst positively to make the team or the players want to work harder. Because let's assume, okay, we are talking about the players and their welfare and their health status. Let's consider the fans that gave up some of their teams' personal time to come and cheer the team after the gingering and everything. Then you don't give them the value of what, like we usually say, the fans are your 13th player or 12th player.
12 man on the
12 man,
pitch, yeah.
So imagine after the whole hustling and bustling, at the end, you do not even give them any fighting spirit or so. That disappointment is one thing.
But you say it's a positive sometimes as a motivation going into the next game. But we don't necessarily need this as motivation, really. I mean, we're talking about lives of people at stake. These are altercations that can lead to injuries, that can lead to death, if we're not careful. So how do you go about educating the fan, all right, to motivate? Interestingly, yes, the fans always want to win, all right? You cannot end that spirit in the fan to want to win, all right? There's that hunger that it's natural, really. But how do you educate the fan to strike a balance between violence and desperation and then motivation?
Okay, one thing you need to know is that football is one of the most passionate sports ever in the world.
Oh, yes.
It's very, very passionate. It's like there's a thin line between being friends in football and being enemies. Sometimes people lose that emotion. When they are putting out the emotion, people tend to overdo it. So one of the things they need to do is to keep fans in check, make sure that they have securities on ground to try to normalize and stabilize violent acts. On the side of the players now, for example, let's take foreign-based players now that want to come and represent their country. Now, with this kind of scenarios, they will start having to think of, is it worth the risks? Is it something I want to engage in? Like now, apart from let's say in cases whereby there is a physical altercation now, is it something, apart from the physical injury, that
the mental health is also
that comes into
concern,
play? Then talk about other fans that take it their shama by going to visit players in their houses.
Oh, yes.
Their family members now are no longer safe again. So these are the things that most players consider again and want to okay.
You know, I was really coming to the players, right? I was coming on what happens to these players mentally, physically, and you dived into it already. You know, Ivory Coast, Ghana, and Cote d'Ivoire. Ivory Coast are hosts, but we've seen photos from Abidjan, from Ivory Coast, where the team buses were stoned, fans showing their outrage, glasses shattered, and what have you, really. But going into the next games, because now these aforementioned teams, Ivory Coast, Algeria, and Ghana, you say it was motivation, but does it really motivate? At least putting the African Cup of Nations into context now. Ghana are out, all right? And look at the journalists in Ghana. I mean, the way they have reacted has been, well, in my opinion, yeah, I know this is my opinion, it's been unprofessional, in my opinion, but also it reflects the anger of the fans as well. But as a player, how do you see all of this and want to be motivated when people who are supposed to be? I mean, I don't want to link this with club football, but I'm tempted to do so right now. All right, because if I played badly this weekend, and next weekend I'm going to be in the same stadium behind the same people who are supposed to be fans cheering me on. How does this help my form? How does this motivate me as a person, as a player, to want to be better?
Okay, first things first. I'm not saying it's like a positive, it's necessarily a positive instrument or two.
Okay.
Like from the angle you came in now, that after playing bad this match and you get the bashing from the fans, you're thinking of the next game. You tend to forget that when you're playing very well, it's your fans that give you the extra motivation you need, even when you're tired, even after playing the whole 90 minutes and you're playing into extra time. There are situations whereby even when you're losing badly, but the fact that you're putting on the fighting spirit, your fans will be cheering you up.
Yeah.
Those are cases I'm talking about, whereby they are giving you the extra motivation and positivity to know that, okay, despite we performed badly, we didn't perform below par. You get, there are some teams that you play against, and one point is that no matter how good you are, they are better than you. They're just better. Or maybe that day was just not in favor of you. So that's team motivation, that's fan motivation now. That is the positivity I'm talking about. Not necessarily that, okay, when you perform badly and the fans come and attack you now, it's like a positive motivation. No. That's not what I mean. Violence is never a good thing in football.
And to those watching this video, really, there's a need to educate fans, and even those watching us right here, right now, really. Fan violence is not an African thing. It's not a Nigerian thing. We see it in countries, even in the best systems. If I want to say, oh, it happens in Nigeria Premier Football League, and that's the only place it happens, it's not really the case. You check around, it happens even in the English Premier League.
Even outside football, it happens.
It happens, it's just a human problem. But how do you go about now educating these fans? I mean, talking about a fan who is overtly passionate, all right, and wants to see the best of his team. Someone who probably has even staked an interest, a monetary interest.
I get you.
You know what I'm talking about. Probably a punter. How do you go about educating them to motivate their players better than throwing stones, shattering glasses, and doing all sort of negative things?
Yeah, we want to educate fans on is to be patient. I know football is a very passionate sport, and the heat of that moment, things can just escalate from 0 to 100.
Your blood to boil.
So there are things we cannot control. We cannot control somebody's emotion. When they score a goal, somebody will be shouting, go, go. There's another person that's supporting the same thing that is just as if he's the one losing. So those are different kind of people. Then where we want to focus on is for the federations to work better on their security protocols.
Okay, yeah.
Most times,
I mean, I begin to wonder how someone can go all the way into the dressing room.
How did you get past to get to that place?
Oh well, we really have to stop somewhere around here. We heard you, right? Patience is a virtue in all phases of life, really.
Definitely.
It's a virtue, all right? And we heard you to support your teams, your players, support them responsibly, and then just try and motivate them positively. I thank you very, very much, really.
Thank you
for the conversation and the education as well, really. And of course, thank you very much for watching. You can be part of the community. As always, you can subscribe to our channel here. We are Guardian Nigeria here on YouTube. And also, you can hit the notification bells to get all our latest content. And that's how we wrap it up here. Support responsibly, even our show, and we'll see you in the next episode. Goodbye for now, and see you next time.